Welcome to Psychic Holistic Spotlight of Rhode Island. I'm Kathy Costa, your host for today. We also have Bill Hannon as our guest, and Josie Ray co-hosting with me. We'll be talking about past lives and past life regressions, either as individual session or group sessions. I facilitate them as well, though, so as Bill does more, has been doing this longer than I have. So Bill, how did you get started with the past life regression, though? Did you have one as a client, though, and that's how you got interested in it?
Yes. It actually started with taking my son to a massage therapist when he was 9 years old. Now he's 40.
Okay.
Okay. The thing is that he was getting massaged by this woman who was more or less trying to basically act as a confidant. So something that may be annoying him, he was more willing able to share with her than possibly his parents.
Yeah.
So anyway, she said to me that she noticed something about me, that she could feel my energy across the room where my son was, and she wanted to take me on as a student. And one of the things that she taught me was past life regression.
Okay.
And it was extremely interesting. I don't know if you want to get into any of the stories as we go along, or.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because I think that'll help our viewers with that as well. So did your son not have any past life regressions, though, during that time, or was just all physical level stuff, though? Is that just a separate thing?
All right, so this is off the wall, and again, that's one of the reasons why some of the people watch this show, is that actually I invited him along to All That Matters down in Wakefield.
Okay.
I was a person who facilitated working at the location there. And one of the things they had was on a St. Patrick's Day, they had a woman who was taking people back on past life regression. She was basically sharing information with us, Selena Rodriguez, I think your name was.
Okay.
And she basically took people and just had them more or less relax their eye gaze, and you'd be sitting across from a person, and two people volunteered the information that when they were sitting across from her, that he was wearing a military uniform.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the thing is, after we all did an exercise with her, we all get up, go to different chairs, nothing organized, sit down, and again, you would share what you saw, what you sensed. And after the second person volunteered the information that my son was in a military uniform, she said, well, this is interesting. This is the second time this come up. Mm-hmm. Let's explore this a little more. What do you see about this young man that makes you think he was in the military? And the uniform, like in the late 40s, possibly Panamanian area. And he actually lost an arm in a conflict there, but otherwise he was fine. He lived a regular life. It turned out that by the following year, when my son graduated, he shared with Joyce and I that he had enlisted in the early enlistment program the previous year.
Oh.
In the Army. And to show you how this may fit into his flow, his energetic, he has just been promoted to major in the Army.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So obviously.
So he's done this stuff before.
He's done this stuff before.
Yeah.
So it's very, very interesting. But, so again, that's not really like a past life regression where you take somebody on a journey and they go back and you're with them, and it shows you the validity of connections.
Yeah. So there's a theory, though, with the past lives that, like, if you feel very connected, though, to a certain part of the world, or if there's like a fascination with, like, a certain time, like, for example, the medieval times or the Victorian times, though, that you've actually lived in that life before, during that time frame or in that part of the world. Do you find that often, though, that to be true?
I find that to be people that have a familiar relationship with something. Yes, it's actually part of their psyche, part of what actually has made them up.
And the soul level, yeah.
At a soul level, and that they resonate to that site, to that
That part of the world
energy
that
that they were visiting it. They resonate to the energy they feel. Because I mean, I think most people realize that when you get off at a plane or some modes of transportation, the area just feels different from where you came from. You know, whether it's a sandy environment or a mountainous environment or a rocky environment, the environment, you can feel a difference. And
it's like a sense of home. I think some people have explained it to be like.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So do you do individual sessions or do you do group sessions or both?
I've done both.
You've done both, okay. Do you find a difference between the individual sessions versus the group?
Yes, it has to be that way. As an individual session, I would sit with somebody, take them on a guided image journey, and then basically make suggestions just to get them into the frame, and then I let them to describe to me what sex they are, what their name is, what they may be wearing, where they're standing, and then we may go on a path to a town or a tribe or some type of civilization. And you make connections with people that, you know, they make connections with people that they've shared that time with, and they explain the dynamics of that life, and it gives them insight as to why they may be experiencing some turmoil in this life, or why they feel really happy with somebody.
Yeah.
You know, it's part of the, I believe, a contract
Okay.
that you may have with that person before you come into this lifetime. What it is that, one of the reasons why you may be here is to work out an issue with that person.
Yeah, yeah, the contractual agreement with them. So, you know, we've referred to this as the soul contracts, where we actually decide what we go through in each life, where there might be lessons, experiences, though, and sometimes, many times, though, that I find that it takes like at least 2 or 3 lives to just kind of work out a lesson. Or work out the experience. It might be just, you know, working out karma, for example, like you and the other person might have decided,
Absolutely.
you know, in a past life, which I've seen that with one of my sessions that I've done individually, where this was like the 3rd life though with her father. And the first life though was they were uncle and niece. And they had both decided, the niece was kind of young in that life to decide anything, but such that we are, they decided to just kind of correct the physical issue of the child, because the child, being a kid, she fell in a ditch.
Okay.
And she broke her legs.
Okay.
So she was on crutches.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, kids being kids, so that's what they do sometimes. You can't help that. It's just, you know.
It's life.
Yeah. So they both decided to just kind of make the kid better. But how they made the kid better was a little bit vague. How that happened though. So it's like by the time, this is the 3rd life though this time, so they kind of work like, so my client had worked out the energy on their end of it though, but the father's like kind of, he's not so much into a believer, I guess you can call it.
Sure.
But so, you know, it's like she worked out her end of it, but yet though, you know, he was kind of had to deal with his side of it though. So it's like she understood why she had to keep coming back though with him around in the life. So to kind of correct what they decided was not the best path. Do you find that though sometimes?
Well, yes. Again, it's the way it goes. I mean, sometimes there may be other people that may unintentionally interfere with whatever it is you had to work out. Sometimes one or both peoples who are involved with the contract may decide at some point in time in this life that, you know, it's not best for us to work on this now, you know, we'll go our own separate ways.
Okay.
But also to get back to your original question concerning personal one-on-one experiences versus a group experience. When I have like 15 people laying on the floor, sitting in chairs as I'm taking them on a guided image tour, basically I can't just focus on one person. So basically I'm viewing, I'm feeling how people are reacting. You watch their face, you sense how they're reacting to a situation. And you know, sometimes you may be able to interject I depend on intuition a lot. I may interject a type of a suggestion that may affect most of the group to come in a direction, but also has helped that person. And so, again, you do a group, sometimes 3 or 4 people may say, well, I didn't say anything, you know, it was nice, you know, nice meditation, but other people have gotten glimpses or feelings about something, and some people are really involved with what's going on.
So in the group sessions, though, do any of them talk about specific
Oh yeah, everybody has the chance to voice what they experienced.
Okay, right, so some do, some don't, though.
Yeah, right. Okay. Some do, some don't. But most of the time, people are willing to share. Most of the time, when you do a group, it's with people that know each other, and
so they're comfortable enough.
Yeah, sure. I've done it with like the herbal group that I'm a part of. You know, people know me, they trust me, and I'm able to guide them, and they feel comfortable. But you know, it's what I felt like I'm drawn to do sometimes.
So does it feel like have you ever had a client that get like so overwhelmed with the past life though?
Oh Oh, absolutely. Have you had experience with?
I've had experience not with clients, but I had a series of dreams, and then in it I was running for my life.
Okay.
And eventually I got it to the point where I stopped running and I wanted to turn around and look to see who it was. And it was the guy that I was dating.
You were running from him. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
There was a past life.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you remember why you were running from him in that life?
Oh yes, he killed me.
Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of a big deal, huh?
But he was a soldier.
Oh, okay.
I see. Yeah.
So, you know, and I was just one of the enemy population.
Sure. Gotcha. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Did you ever tell him?
Yes, I did.
Oh, how'd that go?
He wasn't much of a believer. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so just kind of pass it up as just a dream.
Yeah. Vivid dream.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, my goodness.
Whenever you have a vivid dream, something is going on.
Yeah.
Whether it's past life or karma, or your unconscious trying to talk to you about something.
Yeah, to bring it to your attention though, yeah. Yeah, so I've noticed that, you know, like some people get, like there was one client with me though that she got so overwhelmed that she actually had physical symptoms, and like in the first life she actually threw up.
Right.
You know, before even like went to the other lives though, so it's like, so, you know, she wanted to continue though, so I'm like, okay, it's up to you though, but we can stop right now, but she wanted to continue.
Right.
Because she had a lot of stuff that she knew she needed to work out.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's not usually the case, so, you know, that was the only time, but I told her that was not the first time that happened. I didn't want her to feel uncomfortable and like self-conscious by that though. But that's very rare to be that intense on the physical level. Actually, there's physical symptoms.
Right.
The other two wasn't so intense though. The last life though, she got up for just a moment, but she didn't actually have physical symptoms then. So we were still able to, you know, finish the session with her. Has that ever happened with you though? It's actually like so intense in her life though, where it actually had physical symptoms like that?
Not
that extreme.
Throwing up, but I always include in part of my, when people understand what the connection is, I don't leave them just with that awareness. What I try to do is I try to recreate it. I let them relive the situation over again, but I let them decide how they want to resolve it.
Okay.
So basically what I do is I would present the situation that they just experienced, but I would include a healing response.
Okay.
I would even suggest that what you just lived, you are now aware of, and you know what you're here for. So now would be a good time for you to have a healing about this situation. And rather than having drawn a knife and plunged it into somebody's heart, now you can realize that, you know, you can use the muscle between your ears and talk this out. And then you'd be able to relive the situation with a better finish, and I believe there's an actual healing that goes on the soul level.
Okay.
And this is, I think, actually one of the most important things of doing past life regression when you run into a situation like that is to re-heal or to heal the situation.
So the client that would actually kind of talk it out with the person that this happened from, like the person that did this to?
Right.
Okay.
Right. So I use that example because I was actually taking on a past life regression. I had a heart tightness, and the woman said to me, well, let's explore that. And my teacher took me on a past life regression, and I went back to the medieval times. And she said, what do you do? And I said, I draw a bow. And she says, well, is that for good or for bad? And I said, for both. And she says, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, I'm a keeper of the land for the Lord. You know, me and my family, we're basically here for the owner of the land, and basically we have our own lives that we live, but we also work together and prevent people from poaching the land. But sometimes, you know, we'll take an animal or two ourselves just to keep ourselves going. And she says, okay, well, what's the discomfort with the heart? And I said, I see myself like in a tavern. And we're just having a good time, and it's my family and my brothers and their families and whatnot. And she said, well, what do you see happening? And I was hesitating to continue. I was more or less stalling. And finally I said, well, I see myself in this disagreement with my brother had blown up to the point where myself, probably being intoxicated, grabbed the knife off the table and plunged it into the heart of my brother.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of intense.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. As she talked me through, we healed it. And it just so happened that that weekend, my brother, James, came over to the house with his son and daughter, his wife, and we had donuts and coffee at the house. And my name in that lifetime was Eric, and his name was James. So
that's interesting.
after we're having some coffee and talking and sharing time with the kids, because our kids were all about the same age. I had two sons, they had a son and daughter. And I said, hey, Jim, come here, I want to talk to you a minute. And so I went into the front room, and I just said, hey, just for, you know, giggles here, I said, I'm going to share something with you, and you let me know what you think of this. And I gave him the overview of what had happened. And as I'm talking to him, he's just standing there listening. And tears were rolling down his eyes, on his face.
So was he remembering?
He was remembering on a level that you can't make. Anytime that you have an emotional response to something you understand from a past life, that emotional response is telling you this is true.
Yeah.
Because you have no other reason to have that emotional response, just having a discussion with somebody.
Yeah.
Okay, and so, this is so funny. So I said to him, does that strike a bell with you? Or does that sound like it might be something like that may have happened? Or he said, yeah. I said, I can't explain any other why I have a reaction like that. I said, well, what do you take from that? And he says, his son's name is Eric, because my name was Eric back then. He said, well, I'm going to keep knives out of Eric's hands, that's for damn sure.
I don't think that's what that means, but you know.
But that's just cool, the way he handled it. You know, that's the way so. But, you know, it's just one of the ways that, you know, you just learn to deal with things. And I find that one of the best ways to deal with a situation when you're dealing with an emotional situation, even in this time and space now, is to step back as a third person and look at the dynamics of what's happening.
Yeah.
And most people don't do that because they're involved with the dynamics of what's happening. And I find that when I do past life regressions, I can step back as I'm leading a person on a guided image meditation that they are going through something. I can actually find myself being there with them. as they are walking through the town, I'm walking right behind them. I'm observing this person and how they're reacting to people or going up a set of stairs or another woman, she burned down the house. I mean, well, at the time, she was a he.
Yeah.
In this lifetime, she
It's a
she
woman
was
this
a woman.
time, yeah.
Yes, it's just amazing. You know,
Yeah, there's been a few times though where it actually filled in the holes for some of the sessions I've had with individuals, where like, you know, especially more the ones that was blocking stuff though, because you know how it is though, like with our mind, we tend to protect itself.
right.
You know, it's like the psychological stuff though, even on the physical dimension stuff. So it's like, and I thought that was just because I was psychic. Apparently it's not because of that.
Right.
But you know, if you haven't seen experience though and you're not psychic, so it's
Right.
like, so it's fascinating that when you can pick up on the intuition like that you can
Right.
help to fill in the holes.
Although I'm certain that somebody who is psychic can probably draw on more tools than somebody who's just a practitioner.
Right. Yeah, but you still have intuition itself, though.
Yeah, I
to
do,
be able
but
to pick
it's
up on
not
stuff
as
too.
highly developed as I think I've come a long way past 20, 30 years, but still.
Yeah, I haven't been doing this as long, but you know,
Yeah,
definitely not as long. But I just find that interesting, though. I'm glad I'm not the only one that thought. It was just, you know, coming from my perspective, a different kind of perspective, that I was able to fill in the holes to help, you know, the client or come and it's like, well, this is what happened. This is what I picked up on stuff.
Right.
So like, you know, they've actually I had another client though too myself though that like where she was developing her mediumship abilities and the psychic stuff though too, and I told her, you're gonna feel like you're making this stuff up, but you're not. So if you feel that way though, don't worry about it.
Right.
But I haven't said that to all my clients though, because now all my clients though like work on that part as well though too. Some of them just come in because they just want to get the end result of like, okay, why is this happening?
right.
So that's why I find most of the time though, that's why they, you know, where clients come to me, though, it's like, I just want to find out why this keeps happening.
Sure.
So that a lot of times they come for a reason.
Right.
You know, so there's been a few that's like, they just want to just see how it goes and just for the experience. But most of them though, that I find out come for me though, like, they just want, they come for a particular purpose.
Right. Well, that's a good thing right there. Is like a woman who had come to me for past life regression because she had a knot in the back of her shoulder. And she says, no matter what I do, I can't get rid of it. I mean, you know, some people work on it and, you know, they do a great job and I feel relaxed and it goes away and I think it's okay. And a month or two later, it comes back. And it just keeps coming back and I can't understand why. So I took on a past life regression. And it turns out that this is to know this woman is to know the character that she played. But she was actually, she had it was like I would say 1500s or something like that, maybe just a little before that. She had the role of basically an assassin.
Oh, interesting.
And she was a guy who had, there was a party, a gathering going on for the king's, queen, you know, and family members, and that she had secreted herself away in a area that was like a stone wall, but had like an open window area, no glass, it's just an archway.
Yeah.
And she was there when they were enjoying their dinner. At one point in time, she felt like the timing was just right. She had 3 arrows lined up, and she let them fly 1, 2, 3, and took out the head table.
Wow.
And she was able to get out of there. She had a horse wait, and she just ran, and she went and lived in another town quite a distance away. It was presumed that this was the person who had done it, but they couldn't prove it, and they never actually found her until one day in this public square, she was walking to get food and tables and whatnot, and somebody from this clan that had been attacked by him at the time recognized her and came at her with a dirk, which is like a short sword.
Okay.
And just started yelling and accusing her and just drove the dirk right through
That shoulder.
That shoulder. And when she fell back and hit the ground, she could actually hear the point of the sword striking the ground as we were talking. As she could say, she actually heard the point of the sword hitting the cobblestone underneath her. And she said, I said, well, how'd you get out of that situation? She said, I didn't have any arms on me, but when I fell back, it's like I felt myself in a rage that scared that person, that they turned and ran.
Oh, okay.
And so we walked through on healing that situation. Again, it's always great to be able to work with somebody to heal it.
Okay.
And so it's just like you say, it's just some things come through that you know. And
you can't explain how, you know, you just do, and you know that's what
when
it
you
is.
experience it, you have that emotional response. And as a result of that, we focus on healing that knot, and it did disappear. You know, it did recede, so she didn't have an issue with it later.
So it's so fascinating, though, the different situations. We're actually almost done with this episode, though. How, if someone wants to get a hold of you to get a past life regression, either as an individual or as a group, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, I'm not really in the process of that. I'm still exploring a lot of my life with my spiritual path and also with the healing and herbal community.
Okay.
I do see myself doing it again in the future, and I'd be happy to share the information later on.
That's some other point. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and so it's just. So when you started learning though about the past life regressions, though, did you always do in this process where the person always healed that life?
Well, that's what we will work on, and yes, they always seem to get some degree of relief from the situation. You know, there are other things that, you know, I've worked with people in warlike environments and things like this. But, you know, to continue upon what I'm saying as far as my growth right now, I'm actually working on the hypnotic aspect of it. So besides guided meditation, I can break into basically a hypnotic approach and work with a person, maybe get into something deeper. You get to a place where it seems like you can't progress any further with hypnosis. You can usually make it a little more heavy. So you know, it's basically different levels that you can work with.
Yeah, yeah. Because you know, when I learned how to do the past life regression, and no one ever talked about doing the healing process of it, but that makes sense because, like, I mean, so far, like, just the client knowing what happened or has helped them a lot.
Yes.
You know, resolving it. It's like, okay, this is why.
Right.
But I mean, I haven't come across that yet, though, where the person that I'm aware of, that the client hasn't resolved it from that life, though. So that's definitely something I'm looking into to incorporate that when I do the past life regressions with my clients, though.
Yes.
Do you have a preference over the individual sessions versus the group sessions?
I prefer doing the one-on-ones.
Okay.
I get more satisfaction. I love the fact that, you know, somebody is actually sharing me what they're experiencing. Most of the time I'm actually there with them on the journey. I can actually see them walking through the forest or, you know, coming into a village. You know, it's the connection is phenomenal. It's just so rewarding for me to be able to be there. And that way I can also share insight of what I'm picking up. If they have a question afterwards that they haven't been able to resolve, I may be able to say, well, you know, one of the impressions I got was, and then, you know, it might add insight, you know, but it's, you know. Yeah,
I give notes, though. Like when the client's going through each life, though, I always write it down. So they can have that reference point after, though, and I always give them the notes later.
Right.
So
see, now that's interesting. So I know people do multiple life regressions within one session. Most of the time I work with somebody, it's usually so poignant. That usually that one session is all we have time for.
Oh, okay. All right. So how long is your sessions for, though?
Well, they usually take about 20 minutes to half an hour.
Oh, okay. So mine's are an hour and a half. That's why.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Yep.
Yeah. That's the difference that's there, though. So, and we're just about wrapping it up, though. Any last points that you want to give the viewers?
Well, yeah. I'd just like to share with people that we're all connected. We all have